Make you grind your own beans?
We could retire and open up a Starbucks.
Yeah, right. Every cop in the city will be stopping by for freebies. Oh, man, that one's yours. Oh, yeah. Thanks.
Were you able to get in touch with those ident guys?
Yeah, they confirmed it was Karen Osborne who pulled the trigger.
So she shoots her father, Sam.
Yep.
Who we think killed her son, Ken.
His grandson.
Before offing herself. And I thought my family was messed up.
Yeah, this Osborne kid sure drew the short straw. Sentenced to Ambleton, probably figured he was safe from abuse for the first time in his life.
Only to be staring his molester square in the face.
Not exactly what you call a banner day.
At least the old bastard got what he had coming.
Man.
There, go down that alley.
Sally.
Yeah.
Hey, Nico.
Hey, Vito, junk suddenly part of a well-balanced breakfast?
I like to have it with my wheat brand.
I thought you were getting me some dirt on Sam Draney.
Who?
Draney, old guy. Murdered a couple of days ago. He was shot. His place was torched.
Yeah, right.
So where is it?
I've been busy.
I'm sure your social calendar is full. When do you plan on getting around to it?
When do you need it?
Yesterday.
Oh, that could be a problem. How does next week, Sam?
How about you take another look at your date time?
Okay, tomorrow. No need to get violent.
Got my pager.
What the hell was that?
Moving up a junkie's to-do list.
I say when you ride with me, we do it by the book. Do you understand? You think that's funny? Huh?
I finally make some progress on this Ambleton case, and you send me out of town on some bullshit report?
No, it's an independent review. Besides, the others can handle Hamilton.
That's beside the point. It's a waste of time.
Jessica Tyson is still officially a cold case.
This isn't even about a murder. It's about investigating a cop.
Fair enough, but we still have to document what happened.
Gerald Lee killed her. The only reason he's not in prison for life is because some cop forced the confession. How's that?
You're right.
So why do I have to waste my time when we're not allowed to charge Lee twice for the same crime anyway?
Because I'm getting pressure from the regional inspector, who I'm guessing is getting it from the Attorney General's office. So bullshit or not, it has to happen. Now let me just drive up there, take a look at the case files, talk to the key players. You'll be back by tomorrow night.
Anything else?
Yes, have a nice trip. Morning.
Morning.
Wanted to meet?
Got this phone bill from Sam Draney's house yesterday.
I think he's gonna be late making his payment.
Since the first day we questioned Draney, he's made 5 phone calls to a certain former deputy minister.
Desmond Cage.
And he told me he hadn't heard from Draney since they worked together at Hamilton.
Come on, you're shocked a politician lied to you?
How was it all these survived the fire?
It was in a mailbox outside his house.
Well, it wasn't made official till this morning that Draney was the victim, not the shooter.
So?
So that means you needed a warrant. These are all inadmissible.
Well, I don't want you to charge him with murder or anything. I just want you to question him, find out why a murderer had a government official on his speed dial.
Where you going?
To waste my time. See you in a couple of days.
Wonder what a shit rat like Draney is doing with a deputy minister.
Politics make strange bedfellows.
So what do you say we go talk to Cage?
No. I say we keep Draney's association with Desmond Cage in our back pockets.
Why?
These are inadmissible. We connect Draney to Cage without using them, we get the same results and cover our collective butts.
So we sit on what might be the best lead we've had since all this started. What do you suggest?
We have a wall full of victims and hardly any suspects. Who's to say some guard's the only one involved?
Who's to say he's not?
Well, then let's round up the rest of the Ambleton employees and find out. the very least, one of them may be able to verify our suspicions.
Yeah. Do you mind taking me through this?
Sure. It was the middle of the day. Gerald Lee crowbarred the Tyson's master bedroom window. He was just going through her jewelry box when Jessica came in. I guess she must have startled him. And probably more as a reaction than anything else, he hit her with the crowbar. She died on the way to the hospital.
How'd you get to Lee?
That was the second home crowbar that afternoon, and Lee was nice enough to leave a fingerprint at the first.
It's pretty circumstantial.
But the DNA wasn't.
I never heard about DNA.
We found a cigarette butt on the grass outside the Tyson's window.
It belonged to Lee?
99.9% likely. But the judge deemed it inadmissible at voir dire.
Why?
Claimed we didn't fully disclose when we applied for the blood warrant. But even with the DNA, the Crown wanted more.
And so Decker decided to go and get it.
Decker told Lee he was bringing him in for questioning, and instead drove him out to the bush, walked him in, and convinced him to talk. Lee told him where he pawned the jewelry, so Decker drove Lee back home, went to track it down. Decker probably would have gotten away with it, too. Some camper out walking his dog hadn't seen him.
And now suddenly Lee's a martyr.
Lee confessed to someone in jail a month later, but his lawyer painted the whole investigation with the same brush, and the jury bought it. I guess you'll want to see the rest of the files.
Yeah.
How long you plan to be in town?
Oh, a day or so. Shouldn't take me long to figure out what I already know, right?
I want to book your hotel room for a couple more days.
I didn't think you'd still be here.
Like I have a better place to be?
Do you plan to meet anyone if you work all the time?
You been talking to my mother?
No, should I?
Do you want to?
No. No. How'd your ample staff on go?
4 secretaries, couple of groundskeepers, and a lunch lady.
The lunch lady.
Yeah.
Nice.
They're all coming in tomorrow. You?
Well, I managed to track down all the janitors from 85 to 87, and Savalla's got a handful of teachers.
The way this case is going, we're gonna need a bigger room.
Yeah. Well, I am going home. Have a good night.
Oh, I will.
Oh, Dan. I didn't cancel. I was sent out of town. Yes, there is. Because I didn't choose. Oh, God, a breakfast at the Crown early in the morning, and then, if all goes well, I should be wrapping up in a couple of days.
Sergeant McCormick,
I'm gonna have to call you back.
I'm sorry to be dropping in like this, but I heard you were in town. I'm Renee Tyson.
Oh, hi.
Hi. I understand that you're reinvestigating my daughter's case,
Well, it's more of a review, really.
but you are looking into it, and you know all about Gerald Lee.
Gerald Lee's already been tried in this case.
Yeah, I realize that. If maybe if you get different evidence, anything I can do to help.
The only way we could use new evidence is if it pointed to another suspect.
But there aren't any other suspects. I mean, Gerald Lee killed my daughter.
I know. See, Gerald Lee could go on national television and confess, and we still wouldn't be able to charge him.
So you're saying that Gerald Lee is never going to jail for murdering Jessica?
I'm sorry.
Police have been pushing me to go to trial for months. I didn't like our odds.
Even though you had the DNA?
DNA plays Lee outside the house, not in.
Such a high-profile murder, I'm surprised the investigators didn't try an undercover operation. So this jailhouse informant,
Bryce Cannon.
Yeah, what's his deal?
In and out of prison. Petty stuff for the most part. Actually convicted him a few times myself.
And you believed his story?
I had no reason not to. It wasn't part of a plea bargain.
Jury, on the other hand.
We could have had Lee's fingerprints on the murder weapon. It wouldn't have made a difference. Decker tainted the whole case when he took Lee out and decided to play Dirty Harry.
Mr. Decker,
Wondering when you'd stop by.
so you know who I am?
Small town.
Mind if I ask a few questions?
Don't know what I can tell you that's not already in the files.
Well, how about this? Why'd you do it?
I've asked myself that same question every day since.
And what'd you come up with?
Depends on the morning.
Well, how about this morning?
We'd hit a roadblock.
Every case does at one point or another.
Well, the only person who was going to get us past it was Lee himself.
So you decided to terrorize him into talking.
I thought of it more as motivating him to cooperate.
They're deciding whether to pursue criminal charges based on my report. You know, I could at least plead drunkenness or temporary insanity.
I took a shot. It backfired.
They did a hell of a lot more than that. It turned a guilty man into an innocent one.
He's not innocent.
Doesn't seem to matter now, does it?
What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry?
Are you? You think it's okay to stick a gun down a man's throat because you had noble intentions?
Look, if you came here to tell me I screwed up, guess what? I know.
I'm not so sure about that.
Well, I am. My wife divorced me. I lost my job. Meanwhile, all the time Lee's in prison, women are writing to him. Now I hear he's got a book deal. He's a free man, and I'm probably going to jail. Trust me. I know.
If you're looking for someone to feel sorry for, it should be the Tysons. You took away any chance they had at justice.
Ironic, isn't it? Lee's a free man because the jury considered him innocent until proven guilty. Guess only criminals get that luxury.
Did you have much contact with the students while you were at Ambleton?
Sure. Meatloaf's too dry, tuna casserole's too fishy. There was a time I wanted kids. 6 months cooking in that hellhole, I might as well have gotten my tubes tied.
Do you remember a student by the name of Billy Wells?
Nope.
No. What about Michelle Ripley? They escaped together in December of '87. No. What about Sam Draney? He was a security guard there from the years '85 to '88?
Yeah, I knew that bastard.
What do you mean?
He always complained. My macaroni and cheese was runny.
Anything else?
No.
Thank you.
You taught math in Hamilton for how long?
The entire 4 years it was open.
Was there a lot of staff turnover?
Teachers usually didn't last a semester.
Well, why is that?
Public school, you have 2, maybe 3 challenging kids in a class. At Ambleton, you had 20.
How come you were able to tough it out?
Guess I felt like I was making a difference. I mean, these kids came from broken, abusive homes. They just needed to know somebody cared.
Back to Sam Draney. You said that you've never spoken to him.
Teachers and security staff didn't generally mix.
Not even for a couple of beers?
Well, do you ever go out drinking with the janitors?
No.
That everything?
Yes. Thanks for coming in, Mr. Myers.
Sorry I couldn't be of more help.
No luck either, huh?
That might be changing.
Oh, really?
Harper, Nico, Fido.
Guy's name is Reg. I hear he always used to sell to Germany.
Drugs?
More like merchandise.
Could you be more specific?
Anything and everything. You place an order, a few days later it shows up. Well, I used it once to buy my mom a fur coat.
It's very thoughtful of you there, Vito.
So Sam Draney bought something from some guy. Wow.
What do you want? Guy kept to himself.
How about any kids hanging around?
Not that I can figure.
Vito, if you don't start coming up with something we can use, you're gonna have to start looking for a real job. All right?
Looks like I'm gonna be another day or two. Well, just a few more files to wade through than I expected. Did you get that undercover info?
Yeah, I guess UC did offer to help in the Lee case, but the local cops declined. Guy I talked to didn't seem to know why. Found him.
Don't deny breaking into places because, frankly, you're not a very good criminal.
Harper.
Why didn't you question Desmond Cage?
You've got 7
Because I don't think it's the right move.
He lied to us about being in contact with a murderer.
And we know that because of an illegal search.
Well, Cage doesn't need to know that.
Oh, come on, McCormick. You're right in the middle of investigating a snafu where a cop went outside the rules.
Totally different.
How? How is that different? You both broke the law to get inadmissible evidence.
So what, we just forget about it?
No, we find a way to link the two of them without breaking the law.
You know, Harper, I really don't need you second-guessing me when I'm out of town.
And I don't need you giving me directions by correspondence.
Fine.
Fine. Well, she took that better than I expected.
I don't know what you're talking about. Let me refresh your memory, Reg.
Look, how many times do I gotta tell you? I never sold nothing hot in my life.
So our files are mixed up.
It must be.
Because it says here you tried to pawn a CD player to an undercover cop just last week.
If you were there, you would know that was totally trap.
Look, Reg, we're not interested in you. Just tell us what you know about Sam Draney, and you walk out of here.
You know what I'm thinking? Reg here looks a lot like that guy suspected of knocking around those hookers.
You're not going to intimidate me.
You know, now that you mention it.
It's the eyes.
Yeah. Definitely the eyes.
I'd avoid pimps if I were you, Reg.
Hate for one of them to somehow think you're behind them losing business.
Man, computers. Sold Draney computer equipment.
What sort of stuff?
Anything and everything, but only the best. And the guy kept upgrading.
He was a 60-year-old living in a slummy apartment.
I know. Old dude's like on welfare, and he's got this system that rivals Bill Gates. Web addicts, man. That's the worst type of junkie going.
Hi, Darren. Congratulations on being named tonight's first star. Thanks. Can you describe your overtime goal?
Sure, yeah. I took a pass from Shire just before the blue line and headed in along the boards. And I think Whelan was looking to pass, so when I topped him down, I went top shelf and I went in.
Despite the win tonight, you still find yourself down 3 games to 1 in the series.
Aren't you Bryce Canning?
You knew it.
Oh.
And you'd be,
What? Mind if I ask a few questions? Spend a lot of time here?
when I'm not in jail.
Right, like the night Gerald Lee confessed to you.
That's right. Can I get you something to drink?
I'm good for now. So, what exactly did he tell you that night?
I don't know. He told me that he hit the Tyson girl. He said that he didn't mean to kill her. You know, pretty much that. You sure I can't get a shooter for you?
Maybe later. So, you knew Lee before then, right?
Yeah.
And you knew that he was the main suspect in the murder trial?
I read the paper.
So why do you think he came clean to you?
Maybe, like I told the trial, he just wanted to get it off his chest.
So the two of you are in the jail cell for a few days, getting buddy-buddy, and then he just brings it up.
Pretty much. Yeah, only I wasn't in the cell that just a couple hours. How long are you in town for?
So, Bryce, there's just a little something I want to know.
Yeah? What's that?
Why it is you made this whole bullshit confession story up in the first place?
Why should I lie?
Good question. Maybe because for once in your life, you wanted to be a big shot instead of a small-town loser.
You full of it.
Well, the jury didn't think so. They didn't buy your story for a second.
Yeah, well, is there a problem, man?
No, Bryce. Actually, I'd say it was Jessica Tyson's problem. you accept help from undercover on Lee?
What?
They offered and you said no.
At this way?
I don't think so.
They wanted 2 years and 6 figures from our budget, neither of which we had.
So you decided to take the economy route.
What's this about?
You have 2 holding cells, right?
Mm-hmm.
According to the logbook, you signed Bryce Canning out of his own cell. 47 minutes later, you stuck him in with Lee.
It's standard procedure to shuffle prisoners in temporary lockup.
Even when there's only 1 in each?
Sometimes.
Is it also standard procedure to come in on your day off to do it?
I needed to interview Canning.
That's funny, because I've been over the records for that day, and there's no mention of you interviewing Canning. Besides the logbook, there's no mention of you even seeing him.
If I was fishing for a jailhouse confession, I would have put somebody in there with a wire.
You'd think so.
And I would use a more credible witness.
If you were looking for a witness, but you knew that Lee wasn't going to confess easily, so you stuck him with someone who'd come out saying what you wanted to hear.
Bullshit.
Canning was in jail after you found a grow-up in his house.
So
you're in the middle of the biggest investigation that this town has ever seen, and you go out of your way to bust some second-tier druggie.
just because we're busy doesn't mean we drop everything else.
Speaking of dropping things, 1 week after Canning testified against Lee, you dropped his charges.
We didn't have enough evidence.
What, besides the 3 bedrooms and 1 den full of pot plants? This entire case was built on some bogus confession that you orchestrated. You're as dirty as Decker. The only difference is you didn't get caught.
You have no idea the kind of pressure we were under.
Oh, please, this is a B&E gone bad, not Clifford Olson.
Well, somebody should have told the press that. Crown wouldn't proceed without more evidence. Decker tried to get it, and we all saw how that worked out. So I put Canning in Lee's cell.
Did you tell him to lie?
I told him if he could get a confession, I'd be willing to discuss his charges. It's going to appear in your report?
You better get back.
How's it coming, John?
Just finishing up. What's going on?
You know if Draney had a computer?
Yeah, he had a couple. Nice machines.
Were you able to retrieve anything?
I didn't have a chance to try before the Mounties took them.
The Mounties?
What are you talking about?
They came by and scooped them up. They were with some guy with an English accent. I figured you guys knew.
Does it look like we knew?
So you just handed them over?
They had the paperwork.
They say what they wanted them for?
Just that it was about some ongoing case.
Apparently we're not the only ones interested in Sam Draney.
Do you know when he might be in? You know, you said that 2 hours ago. No, same message.
Still getting the runaround from the RCMP?
Oh, no, someone's getting back to me.
Right. Check this out. It's one of the bills Allie took from Sam Draney's mailbox. It's from his internet provider. We might not need to get into Sam's computer if we can access the server.
We need a warrant.
So we get one.
On what grounds?
On the grounds that we lied to the judge about where and when we got the bill because I'm tired of sitting on my ass.
Yeah, I guess we could try that.
What?
Oh, hold on. When Allie took this bill, Draney was the suspect. But now, we can consider him a victim.
That makes the rules different.
Exactly. We can go through all his personal stuff without a warrant. It's all admissible. As long as we do it without this.
I'm starting to feel bad for poor old Sam.
Oh, yeah, me too. Maybe we ought to help investigate his murder. Ah.
Where did you learn how to do this?
I got kids.
Your 5-year-old knows how to hack into somebody's email.
You'd be surprised. I also did a stint in white-collar crime. We are in business. And we got mail. Raymond Myers. Sound familiar?
Real familiar. Myers was the math teacher I brought in.
Are you here for show?
No.
Well, what's the point of having a review if in the end you can't even arrest the man that murdered my daughter?
The person responsible for that is made accountable.
No, see, the only person responsible for anything is Gerald Lee.
Who, thanks to the local police, isn't going to pay for it?
Constable Decker did what was right.
Not according to the law.
According to the law, A criminal has more rights than a victim.
Mrs. Tyson, I understand why you feel this way, but Constable Decker crossed the line.
The media pushed him over it.
I'm sorry, that's not an excuse.
You can't begin to understand what it was like. For the police or for us. Jessica was murdered, and the very next day there were a whole bunch of reporters camped out in front of our house. And they started writing stories about how we were bad parents. And how I had an affair. The local paper was the worst. And when they ran out of things to write about us, they started writing about the police. About how they were dragging their heels and how they weren't doing their job. All Constable Decker tried to do was give them what they wanted.
All I did was fax the story to the Canadian press. How was I to know CNN would be doing a live remote the next day?
Well, the fact that it was suddenly big news meant that you had the right to sell gossip about a devastated family?
Things were crazy around here from my newspaper. What can I say? So, I knew the dad enjoyed his drink and that Mom had her own room at the No-Tell Motel. I wasn't going to give up home court advantage.
Even though it meant throwing fuel on the fire?
It was burning fine on its own. This was a week after the Jean-Benet Ramsey murder.
I'm not following.
This wasn't just some small-town girl's death. This was a murder epidemic, and everyone from CNN to Lloyd Robertson ran with it. Here it is. Poor cop didn't know what hit him.
Are you saying you actually feel bad about this?
In retrospect, sure. I mean, we didn't think we'd actually get away with it. Everyone knew he was guilty.
Except the jury.
Especially the jury.
I was 95% sure Lee was guilty. All of us were.
So why isn't he in jail?
Reasonable doubt.
5% is reasonable?
You tell me what is. 10%? 50? People say they'd rather see 20 guilty people go free than convict one innocent one. Right.
I'm assuming it was the actions of Constable Decker that raised the doubt.
That played a part in it, sure. But it wasn't the main thing.
So Gerald Lee's lawyer swayed you?
It's not so much the defense proved Lee's innocence. The Crown just didn't prove his guilt.
So the prosecution screwed up?
This case was big news. Honestly, in my mind, Gerald Lee was guilty before the trial began. But the Crown still had to prove her case, and she didn't.
You probably don't know this, but there was evidence she didn't get to use.
The DNA. Once everything was done, I checked out the pretrial documents.
Would it have made a difference?
Sure. But once it was thrown out, there was no way she was going to win with her evidence. Even I know that. The question you should be asking is, why didn't the Crown?
He looks nervous.
He looks guilty.
Guys,
I'm Inspector Drake with the National Crime Squad Service in London. We understand you have Raymond Myers in custody.
I got him before you did, huh?
If you want to talk with him, I'm afraid you're gonna have to get in line.
Actually, I'm here to chat with you. Sam Draney and Raymond Myers are members of an international online paedophile organization. These guys aren't your typical weekend wankers.
oh my God.
All the children involved are under 16. In most cases, they're less than 5.
What's your involvement?
The NCS is coordinating a sting amongst 15 countries. We've been working on this for over 3 years.
So you want us to lay out the porn angle when we question Myers, is that right?
No. We want you to release him.
What? Like hell.
The second one of them even suspects her onto them, an email goes out and everything and everyone disappears. They're already scared thanks to this business with Sam Draney.
That's not our problem.
We're only a couple of weeks away from a bust. And besides, we know that Myers is a member.
And if he is, do you know how many children he can abuse in 2 weeks?
Arrest him now, and all he gets is a slap on the wrist for looking at naughty websites.
At least he can't abuse any more children.
One possible paedophile for 200 confirmed. It's the price of doing business.
We still had a confession.
A weak one.
That was for the jury to decide.
Yeah, which they did.
Yeah, after the judge tossed out the key evidence because the police screwed up the blood warrant.
And you should have retreated then and there and rebuilt your case.
You cops are really something, you know. You push and push for me to take it to trial, and when I do, and I lose, it's my fault for trying. I took a shot.
It's funny, you know, Constable Decker said exactly the same thing.
Do you think that the police were the only ones feeling pressure that day? The day I lost the DNA, I suggested we pull the plug. Suddenly, I'm gutless. There's talk of bringing in someone else to prosecute.
So you decided to follow through with the trial, despite knowing that the odds are against a conviction?
Would my odds have been any better if I didn't even try? I knew my hand was weak. I decided to bluff. I played the emotion card. The jury didn't bite.
Mr. Myers. I'm Sergeant Len Harper.
Can you tell me what's going on here?
Well, I'm very sorry, but there's been a bit of a mix-up.
I don't understand.
Your name hadn't been crossed off a list, and we didn't realize we'd already talked to you. There it is. You're free to go.
Thank you.
Figured you'd be long gone.
Any bites?
Should be asking you the same thing.
Well, I agree that media scrutiny might have pushed this case to another level.
But
But it was your job not to let it affect the investigation.
before Jessica, 20 years I'd worked one murder. David Mason, he got stabbed in a bar fight. There was a dozen witnesses. How about you?
I've lost count.
Yeah, well, the ones you worked, how many of them lived across the street from you? How many of them were in your daughter's kindergarten class? It's hard enough to stay emotionally detached when you don't know the victim. How do you think it would be if you watched her grow up?
Sorry, Mr. Decker, it's no excuse.
You know what it's like to know beyond a reasonable doubt who a murderer is, but to not be able to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt? I did everything by the book. That wasn't enough. Still, everyone wanted it closed. So I tried to close it.
You know Myers is out there molesting kids.
Maybe.
Killing them even. You're okay with that?
Give me a choice.
Throw him in jail.
For what? Lying to us about emailing someone?
He's right, Nico.
Raymond Myers is involved in this whole Ambleton mess. I know it.
Yeah, but you can't prove it.
Give me 10 minutes with him.
I would like nothing more than to toss his ass in jail, but we need to think about what is best long term. In this case, the best thing to do is nothing.
Hell of a solution.
Where are you going?
Hey.
Hey, welcome back.
Thank you.
Bet you're glad to have that bogus little detail taken care of.
It's not done yet.
What? How long does it take to figure out something you already know?
Apparently longer than I thought.
Oh, Al.
Yeah.
I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of choosing. When will I ever learn? I'm tired of living. I'm tired. Say maybe.
In this case, the best thing to do is nothing.
I'm feeling sorry for myself. Say maybe this darkness haunts us all.
Gotta say that was a smooth move, Savalas. I'm just glad you got away with it.
Oh, don't start again.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you know, we need to walk carefully here.
Len's right, Nico.
Hey, I didn't tell you guys what happened to get ragged on.
I'm not ragging. I'm just reminding we're not helping anyone if we blow the RCMP's investigation out of the water.
Hey, I think I did a pretty good job of getting that kid out of that room that Myers dragged him into.
Absolutely, absolutely. But there's a bigger picture here.
Hey, you know what? I don't care about the big picture. I got off my ass and I did something, and as far as I'm concerned, this time I was right.
He did need to hear it.
It's, it's late. Yeah, better get home.
You don't want to stay for one more?
Nope, it's all right.
You don't have to apologize for having a family to go home to.
Good night.
Good night.
We really appreciate you taking care of this matter for us, Sally.
Wish I could say it was my pleasure.
It's never easy to point a finger at one of our own, but sometimes it has to be done.
You're absolutely right, Inspector.
Something, eh? How one bad cop can cause such a mess.
A few days ago, I would have had to agree with you, but I'm not convinced it's as black and white as that anymore.
Jamming a gun down someone's throat seems pretty black and white to me.
Yeah, I expect that's what everyone's been counting on.
Are you honestly implying that Decker's not to blame?
Decker screwed up, no doubt about it. But he wasn't the only one. In your own subtle way, you've been telling the local police to convict Lee or start packing for the Yukon.
There was nothing subtle about it. The case had come to a standstill. We needed a conviction. I was simply motivating them to get one.
Motivating. Decker said he was motivating Lee when he let him into the forest.
The difference is I didn't use a service revolver.
One man's gun is another man's rank, Inspector.
So is that what your report's going to say, that I pushed him over the line?
Have you ever seen that Monty Python skit? A couple of police officers are hauling a guy to jail, and he's yelling, "Society's to blame! Society's to blame!" And they say, "Yeah," and they'll be charged as well. That's my report. People want drive-through justice. The minute we bring in a suspect, the assumption is he's guilty. If a kid's involved, people want retribution. You know it. You've felt it. The media second-guess you. Your boss wants it closed. The public want their pound of flesh. So we live with that and try to deal with it to do our job. But if you're like Decker, and you knew the victim, and you knew her parents, it's easy to understand why you might step over the line.
Regardless, Decker shouldn't have done that.
Pretty easy for us to say that now, though, isn't it? Back when he did it, every single person that you and I serve and protect wanted him to do just what he did.
Didn't expect to see you back here.
I was in the neighborhood.
You fish?
No, not really.
Done your report?
Mm-hmm.
What did it say?
The truth.
Okay. You know what I like about fishing? The fight. Get a little tug in your line, start to reel it in, give it a little slack, reel some more. It's all about balance. At the end of the day, sometimes you land it, sometimes you don't. Nice thing is, toss your line back in the water, try again. It's funny, though. No matter how many you might catch, all people seem to remember is the one that got away.